There we go. So having your thumbs together, palms are stacked one on top of the other, hands are resting in your lap, and you're breathing slow and deep. Feeling the rise of your heart and the groundedness, the rootedness of your sitting bones over and over with each breath. And we'll take one more breath together. Inhale fully and exhale completely. And you'll open your eyes if they're closed. And we'll take a moment to reset. We are going to sit a little bit more. So you'll lean back on your hands, perhaps extend your legs long, bounce the knees. And because we're going to sit a little bit longer, feel free to sit on a prop if that helps you sit up taller more efficiently. All right, so it's Monday. We're going to do a little neck and shoulder release. We're also going to open the lungs and the chest. The idea is to get breath, get more open in the body so the breath is fuller naturally, so less effortful. So let's start with resting the fingertips on the shoulders, and the elbows are going to bend. See if you can draw the elbows together. They may or may not actually touch. And then widen the elbows apart like the letter T, and then draw the elbows behind you as if they could touch behind your back. So we're going to bring the elbows together to the sides and towards the back. And we'll do this about 6 more breaths here. Some mobility. And if you want to make this a little more dynamic, when your elbows touch forward, you drop your chin down into your chest. And when your elbows reach back, you angle your heart up. So there's a forward bend and a back bend with this in your spine. You're feeling that over and over. Let's take 3 more breaths. So this is seated cat-cow with a little shoulder mobility work. And last one, and go ahead and you can shake out your arms. So, you know, if today's been a long day and you just kind of want to move some energy, you can always just shake out your limbs from time to time, just as a reset. Okay, so the jaw. So we're going to do some funny sounds, and it's a real thing. I'm not making it up. But the first one we'll do is horse lips. We'll do, it sounds like this, it looks like this. It's all right, so we're gonna do 5 horse lips in a row. You'll sit up tall, take a deep breath in, and find your horse lips. 4 more on your own. Hopefully nobody's walking in the room while you're doing this. I mean, or maybe it's entertaining. Let's do 2 more. And last one. All right, so that's one thing for the jaw. So this is, you could do this all day long, like if you're in your car and there's, you know, you're in the car for a while, this is great to change that pattern of clenching in the jaw. Another one we're going to do is a buzzing sound like this. It's zzz, and why we're doing in particularly buzzing. So there's something called your vagus nerve that is very much correlated with your nervous system, okay? And this buzzing sound, this vibration the buzzing sound makes stimulates your vagus nerve, which can kind of move you a little bit more in the direction of rest and digest, but also the resonance, that vibration of that buzzing can kind of move some energy, if you will, in the neck, the jaw, the skull, right? So we're gonna buzz, and we're gonna layer all this into our poses today. So we're gonna revisit these sounds, all right? So when you're ready, we'll just take a buzz. Inhale for buzzing. We'll do 2 more buzzes, and can you hear that it's a Z, right? So last 2, inhale. And last one. Okay, we have 1 more sound, and then we'll get moving. Oh no, okay, Jean, yeah, I'm recording this, so hopefully you can see it play back later. All right. Okay, so then the last one is Om, and we'll just do one Om because we kind of know what Om is, but we'll layer this sound into our work today. So this is not your last Om for today. So just take a deep breath in, full exhale out. Inhale for Om. Om. Okay, so what we're going to play with is layering sound in our yin poses and just see if it brings, kind of stirs the pot in a good way, like brings up even more release. So we're going to get into our first pose, which is a supported side bend. So you will need something to side bend on at very minimal, 1 prop, but ideally you'd have 2, maybe even 3 props. So I happen to have a rolled up blanket here. I rolled it kind of long ways in a jelly roll. That's what I'm going to use to side bend on, but you could, anything will do, just any pillow. Doesn't even have to be as bulky as what I'm showing you here. So you're going to bring your prop right at the side of your hip, so perhaps your right hip, and then you're going to stretch your body over that blanket. And so part of your prop is pressing into your waist, but your bottom leg and hip are connected to the mat. And then if you want to find an additional prop, you can place that behind your skull. So I like to fold my blanket quite a lot to get a lot of height. You could, fold a pillow in half if it's squishy enough to get some height. You could also stick your arm under your prop if it's not high enough for your neck. We want the top of our neck to feel really fine, really good here. And then you'll have choices. So this is already a passive side bend. It may not even feel like a huge side bend, but Moon will be here to stay. You can have your top arm resting in front of you or take your arm over your head. And then I'll give you a final option to make this even deeper, and that involves a thigh opener for your top leg. So you would have your knees bent initially in a fetal position. Your knees are stacked, your feet are stacked. If you want to make this a little more intense, you slide your top leg back so it's behind your front foot, and that'll become quite a big thigh stretch, right? And then you can readjust your props as you like. If you want your prop more in the center of your waist or maybe the ribs, that might feel good. And if you feel any pain in your joints or your knee joint or your arm, that's a signal to dial it back, right? So you can always dial it back at any time, but we'll be here for a bit. And we're going to start with 3 rounds of the horse lips, and then we'll let it go and we'll just kind of marinate here in silence after we do our horse lips. So when you're ready, take a full breath in and begin your horse lips. And we'll be here for about 10 more breaths or so, maybe a little longer than 10 breaths. And so I invite you, if the horse lips are really helping you release tension in your face, in your jaw, in your neck, you can continue that as many times as you like. You know, we're all at home, so, you know, no one can hear you unless there's someone in your house. And then the other thing you can focus on instead of horse lips could be breathing into the top part of your lung, the rib cage that's exposed to the ceiling, moving your breath there, coaxing a little more space. And if you notice there's resistance, I always wonder, I'm always curious, like what might be there? What is the resistance? And sometimes a thought or a feeling can come up in our yin poses, and that's totally normal. Can we just allow it to move past us like a parade passing by? So not getting attached too much to whatever's revealing itself here. We'll take our final 3 breaths here. So we'll gradually come out of this. First, you'll stack both knees back together. Then you can take your top arm to the floor in front of you. And we're actually going to rotate onto our back and be in a bit of a back bend first before we do the other side. So you'll just roll onto your back. You might have to reposition yourself in the center. So you'll have that blanket roll or that prop that was at your waist. You'll have it more at your upper back. And then you'll have that pillow that's behind your head, still behind your head. So you're in this, a bit of a back bend, a bit of a heart opener. But notice the 2 halves of the waist. So you might notice variations in the 2 sides. We'll breathe right at the back of the rib cage, right where that prop is. Noticing how the back of our heart feels today. We'll take 3 more breaths here. And then what you can simply do is just turn all the way over to the other side. So we can do the other side, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit up and move my props to the other end of my mat, so I'm still facing you. So you'll come, well, if you want to join me, you'll come up, and then you'll move your props over to the other end, and also move this. So then, depending on the size of your prop that you're going to side bend over, so mine's really narrow, so I'm going to have mine actually more in the middle of my waist, not all the way down to my hip. But if you have like a bulkier prop, it could just be the whole hip into the rib cage. And then you'll fold over and place that prop under your head. Your bottom arm, really important that your bottom shoulder is on your mat, not on your props. And then your bottom arm is out and reaching out in front, hand is at the height of your shoulder. And then once you get settled, you can take your top arm over your head or not, if that feels like too much. You can also keep your legs stacked together, knees bent in a fetal position, or keep the knees bent at 90 degrees and slide your top leg back. And so we'll settle in here, maybe slide the shoulders down and away from your ears. And then from here, I'll give you two choices now. You can stay with that horse lips, or you can do that buzzing, three rounds of buzzing, okay? So we'll inhale in through the nose and begin your buzzing. Zzz. 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 You can simply stay here in silence, or you could focus your mind at your rib cage, breathing into the top of the ribs, the part facing the sky, and just ask for a little more room, more expansion. You can also continue buzzing if that feels like the right path for you here. And we'll travel our top leg. If we moved it back, we'll bring it to stack over the bottom leg. Our top arm, we'll lower it down on the floor, and then you can push into that top arm and rotate onto your back again, revisiting that back bend with our prop. So you might shift your prop a little further up on your spine, so it's supporting more at the back of the shoulder blades, and then your other prop behind your head. You can always also place your hands under your head to kind of get that neck a little more relaxed here if it's feeling tense. Just take a moment to check in with our two sides. Maybe there's a little more space evenly across the torso. kind of from hip to armpit, noticing if there's an equal amount of space on the right and left halves. Whew. And then we'll roll it over to one side and we'll kind of echo those side bends again in a seated posture now. And so, like always, anytime we do a seated posture in yin, especially if you feel like you have tight hip flexors today, I would recommend sitting on a small prop. And then I would recommend a second prop like a book or a block or something a bit taller, maybe a few props that you could stack potentially. So we'll start with our right leg straight out at a diagonal, and then the sole of the left foot to the inner thigh. And then let me just show you some ideas as ways to prop, because not everybody's going to have a block, but you can totally do this with other props. But the simple way is to put the block on the tallest setting behind your straight leg, position your elbow on that prop, and then rest your head in your hand. And then you'll notice the left side of the waist gets this nice stretch, and you get a hamstring stretch at the same time. So you would hike your shoulder up by your ear also to get that stretch. And I'll show you more options with the top arm, but what you can do if you don't have a block is you could put maybe a folded prop on top of your leg and then support your head with your hand here. We don't want to be too low and strain our neck, right? We want to keep that. That's why we're using a prop. So, and then lastly, if none of this is working, the last option is to bend your straight leg enough so your thigh makes a shelf for you to rest your elbow on. And we want to get mainly a stretch in our side. Getting a stretch in the other leg is secondary. So you would keep the leg, if you're going to bend it, keep it really active so it's stable, so this can release. All right, so that was a lot, but we'll do the other side and you'll kind of know better what to expect. So you'll find the version for you. And then your top arm, you again, echoing what we did in our first pose, you can drape it over your head, of course, but this can be quite a lot sometimes. So another alternative is to hook the forearm behind your back, or to take your hand to your hip, and even hiking your shoulder lightly up by your ears. That's okay here because this is yin yoga where we're stretching connective tissue and lengthening, and you do have connective tissue under your shoulder blade. So you do want to stretch that as well. And again, if you're experiencing a clenching in the teeth or a stiffening of the jaw, I'm going to offer alms, 3 alms this time, but you could do any of the other sounds we've already done, the buzzing, the horse lips. So I'll guide you through these 3 alms here. Okay, so you'll inhale fully, exhale fully, inhale for 3 alms. So we'll be here a little bit longer. We'll be here for about 10 more breaths. we're going to stay right here, and you're actually going to take your top arm, your left arm, you're going to swing it forward to frame your straight leg, and then you'll take your other hand to your block or to the floor on the other side of your leg, and you'll just kind of lift up a little bit, twist towards that straight leg, and then just lightly round over your straight leg. You're going to stay here for about a minute. You might move your sitting bones back so you get a little more on your prop, but we want to allow a rounding in our spine. This is a little more focused now on the hamstring of the straight leg. And gradually you'll walk your hands in, curl through your spine to press up. We are going to do a counter pose while we're here. It's a little bit active, it's a little bit young, but that's what balances the yin. So keep the legs as they are. Take your left arm behind you onto the floor, and your fingers are going to point back to the wall behind you. So you're going to press into your back hand, and you'll have to kind of scoot your legs in a little bit, and you'll lift your hips up. So we're balancing on that bent knee, the sole of your right foot is on the ground, and you're just yawning through the left side of your body. And then we'll sit back down, and we'll switch out our legs, and we'll do it all again. So it was a three-parter. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our prop just as we did on the first side. Set it up for the second leg. Your left leg is extended straight out to the side. The sole of your right foot is to the inner thigh. And then you can find your side bend. You can kind of shrug your top shoulder up a little bit by your ear just to lengthen that side. You can lean your spine back slightly to give you more of that side stretch. You can tuck the arm behind your back or rest the arm over your head. And then I'll leave it up to you. If the sounds speak to you here, you can do a few sounds, or you can just keep it chill and silent. It's totally up to you. Sometimes it's just good to move that energy. And please check in with your neck, make any little adjustments. If you start to feel strain in your neck, maybe add a little more height under your elbow. And from here, you can simply reach your right arm out to the right and then just kind of drop it in front of your straight leg. Press into your fingertips, lift up enough so you can then twist your torso towards that left leg and then just lightly round in. And you can get creative with your props. If you want to utilize a prop, you can take that under your forehead or under your arms or however you like here. Whew. From here, we'll crawl our hands in, press into the palms to roll back up, and we will do that really gentle little brief engagement to counter stretch. So once you sit, take your right arm back behind you, palm on the floor, fingers will point back to the back wall, and then you'll lift your other arm up and you'll float to balance on your bent knee, and you'll yawn through the whole right side of your body. And then you'll come back down, and we'll just take a moment to sit cross-legged, and we'll just do some really gentle neck stretches. So let's start with this one. You're going to drop your chin down to your chest. Actually, from a cross-legged seat, push a little bit down on your thighs and sit up a little bit taller. So the down of your hands lifts your heart up. So you're actively sitting. Keep that tall spine and then drop your chin to your chest. Roll your chin to one shoulder and then draw the chin up to the sky. Maybe take a yawn or two here. As you move your chin over to the opposite shoulder and then back down to your chest. We're going to do 3 more circles in this direction. I encourage you to yawn. Today, there was a request for like tension in the jaw, releasing the jaw. And yawning is super helpful for that, releasing the jaw. One more circle this direction. And you might, in your circle, notice there's like a little snag or a little spot that gets stuck. You might just hang out there and yawn or breathe into that little spot first before you move on. But at your own pace, whenever you feel like you've completed about 4 of these neck circles, we'll go 4 in the opposite direction. And, this is not really a fast-paced kind of stretch. We encourage a slower, feel into the experience kind of stretch. That's what's going to unwind these sort of bound up tissues that kind of clench, and they're kind of being protective, and we want to move slow enough so the tissues feel like they can not strain so much, not grip. And And then whenever in the next 3 or 4 breaths from now, we'll wrap up our final circle. And then we'll stack our head over our spine and we're going to move on. Let's move on to another really simple back bend. So all this side opening by design is so you can back bend better. And when we can fully open our chest, we can get more air into our lungs, right? We can breathe deeper essentially. So you'll find pretty much those same props again, and we were using it as a back bend in between sides, but you're going to now back bend over it. Now specifically, we want to bend our elbows like goalposts, and your prop is going to go right below your shoulder blades, not on the shoulder blades, but below. So think of the middle of the back or the back of the waist. That's where we're going to position our prop. Now, depending on how bulky your prop is, you may or may not need a pillow for your head, but I would just go ahead and grab one just in case. So that'll go at the back of your mat. So it's probably going to feel like not a big back bend, but a little bit goes a long way. You know, yin is sometimes it's about subtlety. So you'll position, this is all folded wrong. You'll position that prop right at the bottom of your shoulder blades, and then you'll bend your elbows like cactus on the floor, palms face up. And you'll see how this feels. Does it feel relaxing on the neck? If you feel the front of your throat clenching, that's an indicator you, in addition, want to put a prop behind your head. You can have your knees bent, especially if you're feeling tight here, or if it feels okay on your low back, you can extend your legs long. We're just going to keep those cactus arms, elbows bent at 90 degrees, palms facing the sky. You can even walk your shoulder blades together behind your back to accentuate this heart opener further. Breathing into the chest, across the chest. We'll take one more breath here. And then we'll set our feet on the floor if the legs are long. And you'll actually bridge your hips up in the air to remove whatever prop you have, and then lower all the way down. And then take all the props out from underneath you. So if you have something behind your head, something behind your back, take all that away. And just take a moment to windshield wiper your knees side to side before we move on. So we are going to get into the hip flexors next. And we are going to take a prop behind the hips. Now, something a little bulkier is nice. The higher your hips are off the floor, the more of a hip flexor stretch it is. So we didn't have a huge bulky prop under our back. So you could double that prop. You could fold it if it's foldable, or grab a bulkier prop. And we're going to take that under our sacrum.
And then make sure it feels supportive. And then you'll have two options. The first option is gentle on the low back, and the most gentle on the low back. You would extend only one leg long. And so you would check that out, maybe reposition your prop as needed. But you would extend, so I have my left leg long. And the idea is the left hip flexor gets to open nice and slow at its own pace. Now, if this is going well and you feel ready for the deeper option, you can extend both legs long. And so, you know, you get both hips stretched at the same time. However, that can sometimes irritate the low back here. So if you're feeling your low back, that would mean go back to the original stretch. And I'll let you know when we're halfway through, so we can change out your legs if you have one leg extended. And again, you can crawl your shoulder blades together behind your back. So you're still opening your chest here. This is kind of like a supported bridge pose in a way. And if you're feeling that tension in the face or tension in the jaw, we know those tools of using sounds now. You can always take a few rounds of horse lips to relax further. So we're about halfway there. If you have one leg extended, you'll go ahead and change out your legs. Otherwise, if both legs are extended and you're feeling really good, you can keep them extended. You can also bend both knees and have both soles of the feet on the floor at any time. You can also take your arms back behind you if that feels interesting. And so we'll travel our leg back, so both knees are bent now, both feet are flat. And we have one final little moment here with our hips elevated. So you can always, once your feet are on the floor, relift your hips, reposition that prop, maybe kind of tuck your tailbone under just so the low back has that moment of release. You can either stay here in supported bridge pose or take a moment to lift the legs up in the air for waterfall pose. I often will have to kind of feel out where to place that prop under the hips because you want to feel supported. It's okay for your spine to curve and round into the floor a little bit here. We'll just take about a minute here. Let that be our last breath, and then you can just gently lower the feet down, and we will transition into our final pose, our most relaxing pose of all, Shavasana. So feel free to settle in whatever way you need to enjoy your Shavasana. We'll just take a moment to receive rest.
And start to draw your awareness back into sensing your body on your mat and start to make movements, gentle, but strong enough that you're re-emerging gradually from your rest. You can take a full body stretch and yawn and hug the knees in and roll over to the side. We'll come back up to our seat and we'll close our practice today. We'll actually buzz one time, followed by a breath and then an om, which I'll talk you through all that. All right, so once you settle into your seat, let's just take a full inhale for buzzing. Inhale, let your exhale buzz. Zzz. Let's take a full cycle of breath. Inhale fully. Exhale fully. Inhale for one om. Namaste. All right, thank you for joining me for all these silly sounds in our yin practice today.